Welcome, everybody. Welcome for our second segment. Now we have Chloe Wareham-Gordon here, and I'm very pleased to have her here. And what's very important in this process with an election coming out, that we hear all voices from both different sides. It doesn't matter whether you red, blue, green, polka dot, yellow. We're going to hear from everybody. So I want to welcome Chloe. Welcome, Chloe.
Thank you so much for having me, and that's very well put. You'll have to excuse me if I'm a little out of it. It's been a long day. Actually, I just helped to organize this new skateboarding program for the kids at Dunbar at Second Nature across the street from Dunbar. So I spent the last hour or so skateboarding with the little kids, so I'm a little wiped. And it was my first time ever skateboarding, so that was exciting. But I'm really grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to be here with you. You pronounce it Elena, correct? I just want to make sure I'm right. Yes, because I know Elena, because I know there are different pronunciations. Because I think it is so important, as you put it, that we can all sit together and have a dialogue. It doesn't matter if we might be diametrically opposed on certain issues. Especially the more national and global ones, what really matters are the issues that impact us as small business owners, as residents, as friends here in the community.
Well, let me ask you something, Chloe. There's in the wind that you may possibly be looking to run for a council seat. Is there any truth to that? And are you interested in running for council? Why?
It's a very loaded question because I never envisioned myself being a politician, but really I decided this time around, after myself being a Peekskill Democratic District leader and seeing the process and seeing the process. The process was lacking essentially diversity in the slate. So I felt like there weren't enough debates happening. There are still a lot of concerns I have with the management of several projects, specifically in relation to the DRI, because that's really how I became more politically activated in the city of Peekskill, is through trying to understand where this $10 million has gone or where it hasn't gone. So I decided, well, at the very last second, there was this big blow up because the nominating committee for the Peekskill Dems, and I wasn't even at this meeting because I was teaching kids, but they decided to go with this one person, and then the mayor and her and council wanted a different person that's more aligned with them personally, but that the community doesn't really know. And it was clear that the other person that the nominating committee had independently concluded was the better choice would likely be the better choice because they've lived in Peekskill for 40 years, they're more recognized, and you can read about this in the Peekskill Herald. Essentially, the mayor and the Councilman Fassett, who really pushed this forward, got their way. And I felt like that was innately unfair and undemocratic. Because you had put that nominating committee in place so that they could objectively look and see who are the best candidates that we should endorse and then recommend as such. But if you're just going to throw away their recommendation and demand that your people be endorsed, it's antithetical to what we should be standing for. So in essence, the questionnaire for the Working Families Party was due by the time I decided to fill it out. But I got in touch with someone from the Working Families Party, and he said that they would love to potentially support me just to see how it goes. So I submitted the questionnaire. I got an interview. I was contacted by a few of the people from Working Families Party that interviewed me shortly thereafter, and they said it was one of the best interviews that they had ever done, including specifically out of all the candidates who interviewed from Peekskill, I was the best. And with this cycle of candidates for this election year, it was me, and I think it was mentioned to me, one judge from Putnam County who were the best out of everyone. So they were really impressed, and even I heard from others that they heard about how great my interview was. So I swiftly got the endorsement, which I was really grateful for. But so then the next step is to try to figure out petitioning. And I was endorsed alongside Arnie Paglia. I did not realize, as I really have a lot of respect for Arnie, I did not end up realizing that he was opting for mayor and I was opting for council. And kind of rewinding a little bit back, the whole reason I potentially wanted to run was to force a debate. I knew I had a very slim chance in hell of actually being successful. But as a social media manager, I thought a campaign would be a great opportunity for me to raise awareness of local issues and essentially the biggest issue, in my opinion, which is the lack of collaborative governance. It was confirmed to me by one of the council people that most of my messages to the council get immediately deleted. And I'm sure you've experienced similar things where you're treated like you're a race just because you might oppose the council, which it's not right. And I've still been dealing with such retaliation over the past year since our last interview because of calling out Weinrib and Connor, and ultimately, even though they were fired, so you'd think that would be some vindication, the people involved in that are still, none of them were held to any penalty. Some are still shadow employees of the city hall. So they're essentially working for the city, but not in any public capacity. If you go to the website, you won't see them there. But then if you walk inside City Hall, they'll be there. So it's gotten to such a degree that even today I sent a cease and desist, because the retaliation has consisted of actively calling clients and telling them to stop working with me, going into client businesses and slandering me and telling them to stop working with me, or implying they'll lose certain board positions in the city, commission positions, or that it would be a struggle for them to get in front of City Hall with any issues, like zoning issues, if they continued working with me. So it's gotten very severe.
Are these city officials doing this, or are these Democratic City Committee people doing this?
So far, officially doing it, it's been a city official, a shadow city official, who was the main focus of my the retaliation with Weinrib and Connor. She was the subcontractor who was paid $200 an hour for DEI stuff with no DEI experience or human resource experience, and she also took over the farmers market 3 years ago. And if you notice, they just admitted the farmers market is barely breaking even, and I don't think that's a coincidence, because she's been horrible at managing it. And she also does the city's social media with no social media management experience. And she also is the shadow city manager assistant, because her number 2 is acting as the official assistant for city manager Matt Alexander. And still, she threatened to kind of meet me outside, like with physical violence.
Just a second. Yeah. You're telling me Matt Alexander has a shadow city manager?
Yes.
Well, I think the people need to know who that is.
Well, it's Sharice Jervis Hill. You know, it's the same name that keeps popping up, who doesn't live in Peekskill. She lives in Cortland Manor, but she's very intertwined specifically with Keisha Palmer Cousins and with the council, and as a result, the Chamber of Commerce. And as a result of that, I've been really blacklisted from a lot of these business networking events. I went from being Young Professional of the Year with the Chamber of Commerce to being treated like a persona non grata. So she's the shadow city manager? Is that what you're telling me? I wouldn't call her that. It's kind of, she's a shadow assistant to the city manager, and her number 2 at Events to Remember, his name is Patrick something. It's like Patrick Berkowitz or something. He is acting as Matt Alexander's number 2. But he is Sharice's number 2 officially. You can check the Events to Remember website. That's where he is. So my question is, and Matt Alexander admitted to me that he's actively doing social media alongside Sharice and Patrick. So why are they all working together, and why don't we have any public resolutions that are readily available about this? A friend of mine did a crazy deep dive and maybe found like one resolution slipped in there like 2 years ago, or as Events to Remember, to do some consulting with like communications, but it was so unclear and nebulous, and it's just I have so many questions. And why is it, after this woman has actively tried to make my life a living hell, to the extent that I even brought it up in a public comment section of a city hall meeting, so they'll know what's happening to me. But my humanity, what I found is my humanity doesn't matter. What matters is they want to be self-defensive, and they care about, in my opinion, of course, they care about their people, and they don't like people. They don't like me being like a traitor. Even sitting on a couch with you, I'm considered a traitor, which is absolutely preposterous. But that's just, it's the tribal mentality that is so harmful. And of course, they'll throw everything at me, like comparing me to the protagonist of A Beautiful Mind, or they'll say I'm self-interested. I just want the city accounts for myself. It's so funny, they keep projecting these things onto me. They can't realize that I live and work in Peekskill, and I love Peekskill, and I don't want Peekskill to keep suffering. I don't want people to continue suffering, to pay rent, get food, get access to resources that they deserve, that they should have, just because things are being mismanaged. Like, you know, we were supposed to have Wi-Fi at Lepore Park by now with the DRI grant. There are so many things that have just... Anyway, so back to your question, wheeling all the way back to if I'm still running. So I explained all this to the Working Families Party folks. They were really captivated by my testimony of the advocacy work I did with the marketing and branding DRI, and how the public outcry really prompted them to take action and fire Weinrib and Connor. And then it prompted them to take action again to actually do what they were saying they would do with the next iteration of the project, which was select a new RFP for the branding, which they chose this company called Trajectory out of Canada, of all places, to create a new logo for us for $55,000 plus travel fees. And I don't think they understand it's a single logo with no variants and a very basic brand kit.
Why Canada, though? Is that Matt Rudikoff? Isn't Matt Rudikoff from Niagara Falls or up in that area?
I wouldn't be surprised. I asked ChatGPT to do a deep, oh, this is also, I want to share this with you. I heard from someone, and I hope they're listening. Someone forwarded me a message, well, someone forwarded someone else who forwarded me a message that someone said, you can't associate, it was a local business owner they said this to, you can't associate with Chloe. And he said, you know why? And she said, I'm sorry, I'm going to, excuse my French, a direct quote. Terrifying. She will dig into your life, dig into your family, find anything you've done wrong, any corruption you've ever been a part of, and expose it and bring litigation and stuff, blah, blah, blah. So you don't want to be associated. And my first response to that is, then what are you hiding? And why are you so afraid of me? I'm a 5'2" ballerina with no generational wealth. And so it's just bizarre.
So someone related that to you?
Someone related to someone else who related to someone else who related to me.
So it's basically hearsay.
It is definitely, well, no, it was a screenshot text message that was shared.
Really?
So it was.
So do you know where that text message came from?
No, I don't want to.
I don't want you to give a name, but do you personally know where that came from?
I
so
asked
you
the
know
person
who's stabbing you in the back as you're walking around.
I asked the person the first recipient, the original recipient of it, if I should be scared. And they said, no, it's not anyone willing to hurt you necessarily, but it is really off-putting.
That's hurtful. That's hurtful. They don't have to physically hurt you. That's hurtful.
At this point, I'm so numb to kind of the sticks and stones thing. The only thing that hurts me is pulling my clients in. Like when my clients get the phone call saying, oh, Chloe's making you look unprofessional, she's ruining your reputation. I was essentially forced out of the Peekskill Rotary Club over all this, and which was a group I really loved. Because most of my family, unfortunately, has passed away, except for my mom and some nieces and nephews and my half-siblings, because my dad, of course, was in his 60s. He was on the older side, and then a lot of my mom's family died in a house fire in New Jersey in 2011. So I really adopted the Rotary as my family, so that was really devastating to lose that. So at this point, I'm so numb to the words, and the only reason I came forward with the cease and desist, which cost $250, but was totally worth it in my opinion, is because I don't like my clients getting upset, because it makes them really mad, because they're especially the ones who their businesses rely on my social media work so they stay alive, so they have e-commerce because they don't get enough pedestrian foot traffic here. The fact that they have to consider dropping me for their reputation is awful. And furthermore, I've worked with some of these people for 3-4 years. It's really, and we've developed deep friendships, so they feel very defensive towards me, so they get upset. So that's more upsetting to me, honestly, than targeting the people in my circle.
Okay. Say you run.
Oh wait, yeah, sorry, going back. So I was running, and then a local progressive kind of intervened and sabotaged my endorsement and pulled strings. And they were going to, Working Families Party made it very clear that they're under-resourced, and they haven't been involved in Peekskill since Vanessa's campaign. So they kept asking me, like, what does Vanessa Agudelo think of all this? And I was like, I'm jealous of her, she's pieced out. So they're just totally out of it. And so they listened to this person who kept saying, oh, it's not Chloe's time, please, like, give her 2 more years, blah, blah. And the person who did this was really just looking out for their own interests. The Working Families Party Steering Committee was going back and forth with, oh, should we pull the endorsement from her and Arnie, or just Arnie, because Arnie was he was being a little wishy-washy in their book, and they weren't as sure about endorsing him, but they were certainly sure about endorsing me. But the progressive a local who sabotaged me kept pushing, oh, have her run in 2 years. And that's how I knew that the progressive locally, I'll use a pseudonym, or a euphemism, had intervened, because it was the same verbiage that I kept hearing from this person. But at the same time, even though I said to them, hey, I'm feeling really hopeless. These people are trying to ruin my life. I feel like I have no voice. And at this point, it's ridiculous. I have to go to Facebook if I have any questions for the council and beg other people to send the questions on my behalf. And once 7 people responded to that and sent the questions, and it was the first time the mayor had actually responded to my questions. So that's why I was so infuriated at the State of the City speech, where she was like, we're building Peekskill better together, or whatever the new trademark was. And I was like, that is just hog's wallop, as the Brits would say. So as the Working Families Party was debating what to do and being like, we're under-resourced, blah, 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 I was like, okay, this is stressful. Because of all the nonsense, I had lost 2 crucial weeks of petitioning, and I decided for my own mental health and to focus on my business that I would pull out, because especially at that time, if local progressives were coming after me and treating me like a chess piece, how am I even supposed to move forward if the non-establishment folks won't even truly stand up for me and stand up against these bullies? And so I sent them an email and I pulled out. They ended up pulling Arnie's endorsement. And Arnie is going to, I think he's still planning on running, so is Jessica Martinez, and so I've been oscillating if I should run with them because I have a lot of respect for both of them, especially Jessica with the work she's done with housing. But
excuse me?
well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
we're
know
going
the
to skip
backstory.
over that.
Yes, but yeah, I've been really confused about how I should proceed because I feel essentially betrayed by so many people. Because when people are, and you asked regarding the retaliation, so it was someone, yes, an appointed official from the Peekskill Democratic Committee, and so on the executive committee, and yes, and the shadow personnel. So, and those are the people I know of. I'm sure there are, and well, this is just speculative, I guess. In my opinion, people in the council have been actively saying things disparaging about me. That's what I personally suspect. That's the energy I feel. I don't feel welcomed. I don't feel like my voice wants to be heard.
Well, you do know that they're going to really come after you now after this publication.
Oh, I mean, they've already, that's the thing, they've already tried to ruin me so many times. It's been devastating to see.
All right, you'll have to stand up to it. I've been there, done that. What I would like to know from you, regardless of the Working Family Party, will you still run an independent campaign?
Yeah, I feel like I'm the opposite of what a leader should be. A leader should be sure this is what they want to do. But my whole plan was running just to essentially, yes, I admit, kind of piss off some people who have been making my life a living hell because they want the easiest route possible.
Well, I did that in 2009. I ran for mayor against Mary Forster just to piss off a few people. I got 106 very proud votes that I'm proud of.
But no, because I think debate is important. It's a big part of our democratic system. And there's so many questions I have about specifically like where follow the money sort of things that they are just refusing to address. Or like, for instance, the one time the mayor actually did respond to my question, she completely obfuscated. I want someone to really push hard. And at the same time, you know, I brought the political donor list for them. I want to ask them, why are they getting these? What impact, if any, does getting donations from developers and...
Let's hear the donor list.
Oh, yes, yes. Oh, wait, and before, one last thing before I get to that. So in regards to running, so I have to decide, well, how does it best, because I think this is something that's missing. What is best in every conversation? What is best for the city of Peekskill? What's best for the city of Peekskill, in my opinion, and I'm sure you agree, is not sticking to the current status quo of essentially the establishment figures being able to do whatever they want with very little oversight. We have the Peekskill Herald, and occasionally they'll put out really great investigative reports on them, but that's not enough. We need a competent city manager. We need a competent economics director, because Matt, no offense to Matt Rudikoff, but he's what, I'm not Italian American, but he's what Italian Americans might call a chooch. And if you know what that means, if you don't, you know, you can look it up. Because also he told my mother, of all people, keep my name out of your mouth when being critical of the city's economic state. I'm like, are you threatening my 60-something-year-old mother? Like, what is this behavior? I mean, it's just, it would be, it's comical in a way. So I have to decide, well, what is best for the city of Peekskill? I think running allows me to have a platform and a voice that not running doesn't. So perhaps if that is what's needed, then I'll stepping forward. Also showing, you know, bipartisanship and friendship and being able to work with people with different ideologies is also important to me. Showing that it's important to put people over party. It doesn't matter, as you mentioned earlier, what color you stand for, or if you're a donkey's ass, or if you're an elephant's turd. What matters is serving the community. And now that I'm also working with kids at the middle school and the after-school program and at the Dunbar after-school program, I don't want my students to have to grow up in a community where it's based on who they know that determines if they have a say in municipal governance, or if they have opportunities, fair opportunities, to have roles on municipal contracts or in local government positions. I also want them to see that if someone tries to tear you down, like, and they're doing the same playbook they did to Vanessa, and they have to stop this. Like, the onus is on you to really take a stand. And it was really sweet. My students, when I told them a few months ago I was going to run for council, they were so excited. They're like, oh, we're going to have someone on the inside. They were like 10. And I said, well, at Dunbar, what would you like to see changed? And first they were like, oh, less guns and drugs everywhere. And I was like, I don't know if I can really help with that. And then they're like, oh, can we have a bus to hang out with our friends at the Kylie Youth Center? Can we get the lights fixed everywhere? It's important
and
to
these
feel.
Are kids.
These are kids.
That know that there's issues.
Hillcrest kids, yeah.
They know
So
that there's issues.
it's important to establish, and like for instance with the recent incident with on the animal abuse, why do we not have an animal control officer? There's this claim that there's no budget for it, but it's like the same reason when I asked the city, the director of planning, why is there not a compliance officer or an official communications figure to make sure that people aren't misusing funds, that these independent contractors have true oversight? And she said, oh, there's no budget for it, blah, blah, blah. So,
Well,
but back to the
for
donor
that dog,
list.
For that dog situation, there's a lot of agencies that are responsible for that happening, from our school to the CPS
Yeah.
to the housing authority. If they were doing inspections like they should, those dogs would have never been in that apartment in that condition. If
true, too.
CPS would have met the kids in the apartment instead of outside in the parking lot, those dogs would have not been in that situation. That young lady has some issues and needs some help, and her children need help. The school is very well aware of it. CPS is very well aware of it. Do I want to see her go to jail because of this? I got to tell you, I don't. I don't. I think she needs some mental health.
Yeah.
I think she needs help. I don't feel what she did is absolutely wrong. Okay, but she wasn't alone in this, and everybody's jumping all over her. So I have to say that I'm a dog lover, and had she let me know she was having trouble with those dogs, all three of them would be sitting in my backyard or in my yard right now. So I wanna say that anybody that lets the animal go through that's got some serious issues.
Oh, I 100%
And if you can't
agree.
feed the dog, that means you ain't feeding the kids, because if the kids are eating, they're gonna throw the dog some scraps. So I want to leave that alone.
Oh, no, I agree. I was just mentioning, even today I saw a fox fighting with a hawk at Depew Park, and I was like, because we had the issues with the rabid foxes last year, so it's good to have, we really need an animal control officer.
Yes,
just in
we
case
do.
of stuff
We
like that.
absolutely
but,
do.
The other thing, even being on this podcast with you, it's giving me a really important platform, and I appreciate that, and that's kind of my goal also with running. But the other thing I'd love to bring in is Second Chance Foods in Putnam County has started putting these vending machines with free food, speaking of the food insecurity issue, in libraries, and it's all fresh food from like Glenwood Farms that people prepare and you can just heat up, so it ensures that people have healthy meals. And I would really love to push to put one of those vending machines, it's about $6,000 or $7,000, in the nutrition center or in the field library. That way if you have like a kid who is food insecure, or anyone really, they can just go up and without any shame or stigma grab what they need. But of course, I'm even afraid.
Then you're going to get some that are grabbing what they don't need.
Of course. I mean,
see,
that's
that type of thing has to be controlled.
Yeah.
I mean, there's enough food, there's enough pantries, there's enough places giving out food. That's one thing I would have to say that's going to cause a problem, because then you're going to have homeless, then you're going to have someone that's going to claim it as their own. So that I don't agree with. I want to get to the donor list.
So anywho, yes. So what's really fascinating is you see when looking, and all of this is public knowledge, by the way, it's not me doing some magical sleuthing, as the one person referred to, my mystical investigative.
P-Skills Doge.
Right.
P-Skills only Doge.
I guess, I have nothing better to do than just like prying.
I always tell people there's so much public information out there.
Yeah.
It doesn't require just listening to someone else. You can look it up yourself.
Yeah. And this is a simple Google search. So this is the public donor list for Mayor Vivian McKenzie for her mayoral campaign. So they segregate it based on office. So she has a separate list for the council position. So this is just mayoral. And the most recent one is January 11th. And it's either anonymous or blank for $720. So she had this big birthday fundraiser, so those funders are not here yet. It hasn't been updated, but I have heard that an interesting donor who plays a big role in you know, the whole Ramon Fernandez saga, who's also on this list, was actually at her birthday fundraiser at, I think it was Gleason's a few weeks ago, even though I didn't go. So you have, yeah, the recognizable names and faces, Kenneth Jenkins, Tina Baltz-Bonger, Nicola, DeMarco, like all the typical, like,
let's read them. I want to hear.
Stuff. Oh, you want me to go?
I want you to go over.
All right. So
I want the people to know.
January 10th, 2025, $225, Karen Pecorera. Sorry. December 31st, 2024. Now I'm going into 2024, going backwards. Dana for Assemblies campaign. The next one is the same day, Friends of Kathleen Talbot. Next day, Friends of Patricia Riley for $150. The Dana for Assemblyman was $100, by the way. The Friends of Kathleen Talbot was $35. Then $35 same day, so it must have been at like a New Year's event or something. Judge McGovern for Justice. Next is $70, Leslie Masson. Next, $100, Marina Chiotti Hodges. I'm sorry, I'm butchering probably most of these names. $35, Matthew for Family Court. $50, Nina Levine Apicella. $50, Ramon Fernandez. $100, Kenneth Jenkins. $100, Tina Baltz-Bonger. $35, Nicola DeMarco. $100, Susanne Casachi. $25, Linda Wildman. $75, Josephine Trevini. $35, Nancy Vann. So it's the typical Dems. $100, Ruth A. Wells again. $200, Judge Reginald Johnson, and this was December 11th, 2024, which is fascinating. And he was the one that apparently played a big role at her recent birthday fundraiser. And then $35 next for Tina Baltz-Bonger. $35, John P. Collins. $35, Connie Lobar. $100, Nadir Sayegh. $70, Drew Claxton. $100, Karen Kelly. $35, Natasha A. Ginsburg. $35, Diane Clerkin. $35, Linda Wildman. $25, Linda Wildman. $35, Ruth A. Wells, and then the next ones are all Linda Wildman, $25, $25, $25, $25, so $100. Nearly $2,000, Anonymous, $99, Anonymous, $250, Kasachi for DA, $250, Dwight Douglas, and now we're going back into June. $150, elect Judge Marianne Scateritico, neighbor to New York State Supreme Court. $300, Friends of Patricia Riley. $150, Judge Kimberly Ragazzo. $150, Judge Maritza for family. $150, Karen Kelly. $250, Karen Pecorera. $150, Pamela Hallman Johnson. $200, Ramon Fernandez. $150, $150, Sherilyn for Westchester. $100, Somers Democratic Club. $99, supporter of Tom Luzio for mayor. $150, Barris Shacko. $500, John L. Mucchiola. $25, Linda Wildman. $150, Brett Broge. $150, Aaron McGoey. $200, Maria Slippin. $150, Sharon Matthey. $297, Bern Harrison. $150, Jane Lippman. $150, Josephine Trevini. $150, Sharon Persinger. $150, Brewster for family. $150, Burke for family. $150, Judge McGovern for justice. $150, re-elect Judge Duffy for justice. $150, Natasha A. Ginsburg. $150, John P. Collins. $150, Mark Davis. $500, Kenneth Jenkins. $150, Maureen Goulburn. $99, Nicola DeMarco. $99, Linda Wildman. $150, Diane Clerkin. $150, Daniel Solinsky. $100, Drew Claxton. $500, Westchester Black Women's Political Caucus. $50, Nicola DeMarco.
Wow.
$150, Black Democrats of Westchester County. $760, Anonymous. $35, Kachachi for DA. $35, Diane Clerkin. $100, Friends of Kathleen Talbot. $150, Friends of Patricia Riley. $70, Karen Kelly. $35, Kimberly Ragazzo. $35, Kyle McGovern. $20, Linda Wildman. $100, Marina Chiochi Hodges. $65, Mary Ann Sketchereko Nabar. $70, Ramon Fernandez. $35, Barris Shacko. $70, Nancy Vann. $35, Raynette Brewster. $35, Lizette Fernandez. $35, Nicola DeMarco. $146, Ruth Wells. $100, Ruth Wells. $35, Sharon Matthey.
Let me interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you there. These are all people donating to the mayor?
Yes.
So is there a separate list for the developers? Do you have any idea of how many developers are donating to this mayor?
Yes, separately, I went through And also, and to be honest, I'm actually even on that list for $50 because it's the cost of a fundraiser. So they added that. So I want to say, yes, I am on the list. But essentially, when I went through this, yeah, Sean Kearney, $500, October 2nd, 2023. So the Kearneys are all over this, Ben Green as well. And if I, yeah, Ben Green, $250. So, and I think I saw Lanza farther back, like $500 here, $500 there. So yeah, it's, you know, it's who you expect. And then my question is, well, what role does accepting that money, does it play in their decisions? Because for instance, you know, my rent is going up 8.5%, and I live in artist subsidized housing, and a lot of my neighbors are Section 8, and a very few in the Lofts on Main are market rate. My mom is in River Point, where they're also raising her rent 8.5%. My developer, Sean Kearney, who donated to the mayoral campaign within the last 2 years, and then my mom is Conifer Realty, which I think is like a private equity firm. So, and the mayor will not put in a bulwark such as good cause eviction or any other tenant protections, because she claims, she herself being a small town landlord, it's going to hurt small town landlords if she has to hold them to account, blah, blah, blah. And it's just so frustrating because, for instance, that's an extra, the equivalent of an extra $100 per month. Like my mom on a fixed Social Security income and her neighbors, they can't afford that. So I've had to step in and pay a lot of my mom's bills. And I'm even struggling too. I mean, everyone's struggling. The economy is terrible. And what's wild is, and actually the Herald did a great investigation on all these back taxes that haven't been paid. It was like something crazy, like $3 million. Right. There were the $2 million, of course, default judgments. And also the winter parking has just been a total fiasco. It's really a regressive tax on the poorest who can't afford driveways and have to park on the street. I feel like we're being nickel and dimed at this point for everything, and the services that the city is providing are awful. And you gave how many subsidies to Sean Kearney for my building to essentially crumble, where I commonly now have cockroach infestations that are building wide. We have the side paneling of the building falling off, so we can't use the courtyard. He hasn't updated any of the amenities since the building opened and when I moved in 2019. So I wonder if all the developers are working on the same playbook. They come in, they get all these subsidies, and then they just let their buildings rot, but there's no oversight. So,
well, that's kind of what Dwight Douglas said about 901 Main Street, and he was pretty much against any more affordable houses coming up until they investigated what was going on at 901 Main Street, and then we saw Peter Harker. I want to thank you for coming out here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I want to tell the people that are out there, let's be careful, and let's see what happens with these folks that were here today. I see some retaliation coming because I know how dirty they can be. But I'm hoping all of you will back these two people up, and especially Miss Gordon here, because I think she's Peace Girl's own private doge, as much as people don't like that. I appreciate you ladies for coming. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Hopefully my health will allow me to do another one of these very soon. In the meantime, everybody, God bless you, and God bless you all.